Go like this, and go like this. You guys have been to church every Sunday this year. That's awesome. That's great. Not that we're keeping stats on things like that, or that's the most important thing. But in all seriousness, if we stop meeting together with other brothers and sisters, we will struggle in our faith. So it's the first day of the new year, and you're here. So well done. If you look around and if you notice that somebody isn't here, maybe they need a little word of encouragement this week. Invite them to come back next week, and I promise I won't have them raise their hand and then do it, because then there'll be less of them by themselves. We don't want to single anybody out. That's why I have everybody do it. Many years ago, I lived in a fixer-upper house. Let me rephrase that. I still live in a fixer-upper house, but many years ago, I bought my first fixer-upper house. And I was young, and I didn't have very many tools at the time, and I didn't have a lot of money to buy the tools at the time. But we had this awesome store called Harbor Freight. Anybody know that store? Okay, we don't have one here. We need one. But Harbor Freight is to tools what like Dollar General is to other stuff. I don't know. They make stuff, and if you're going to buy things like hammers and screwdrivers and tarps, Harbor Freight is the place to get it, because you get it like 25% of the chance of the cost. And so you get to save a lot of money. But they also make things like saws and electrical things. Don't buy those at Harbor Freight, because they're like one-time use tools. But they are very, very cheap. And so being the person that I was at the time, I thought, you know what? I went to Lowe's and Home Depot, and they had a Sawzall that was like $60. I knew that I didn't have that money, and so I went to Harbor Freight, and they had one for $15. And so I bought it. But the good thing is, you could buy a warranty for like $5 that would replace it if it broke. Now, I knew that their tools were not very good, but I was only going to use it once. And so I bought it, and I used it once, and it was still working. And I used it twice, and it still worked. And the third time it broke. But I had my warranty, and so I took it back and got my money back. We live in a society that is a throwaway society. Styrofoam, throw it away. We buy it in cups, we throw it away. You buy it in use, we throw it away. Even power tools, once or twice, use it, and you throw it away. There's even talk of making cars that you throw it away when the battery dies, because the batteries are so good, they last so long, and they're so expensive that when the battery dies, you're not going to pay that much for a new one, and so when the battery dies, you toss it out. We live in a society that throws away tons of stuff. Dumpsters full. If you search on the internet, there's another picture I have. They'll even tell you 21 things you need to throw away right now, because you probably have these things in your house, and you probably haven't used them in a long time. You just need to get rid of them. And plus, if you ever need one, you can just go buy another one, because we live in a throwaway society. Next picture. Some people would like to throw away 2016. Good riddance, 2016. A lot of bad stuff happened, but it's the new year, and so let's get rid of the last stuff. Here's the reason we throw stuff away. Because we want to distance ourselves from things that are bad, or things that are broken, or things that taste really bad. And so when we put them in our mouth, we expel them, and so we get them away. We put distance between ourselves and them. My family, I bought some of these jelly beans, and half the jelly beans were really delicious flavor, and half of them were really nasty flavor, and they looked the same. And so you would put them in your mouth, and you didn't know if you were going to get peach or earwax, toothpaste or blueberry, or, green was lime or grass flavored. And so we played this game, and you eat it, and if you spit it out, you're out of the game. But if you swallow it and can identify it, you're still in. And so it was down to me and John. John and I were going back and forth. Everybody else had expelled the bad stuff. And so John and I were going back and forth. We're putting them in. And I got toothpaste. It's not too bad. It's minty fresh. And then I got barf. Well, it tastes like barf. And so I put as much distance between me and it as I could as soon as I knew what it was. I expelled it. I wanted distance between it because it was nasty. When they say it tastes like barf, they're not kidding. You want distance between yourself and garbage. And so we put our garbage outside in a garbage can. And then the garbage truck comes and they take it and they take the garbage and they put it outside of the city. We put it away. We want distance between ourselves and things that are broken or things that are bad or things that are hurtful. Refugees, they are fleeing their homes and trying to find safety. They're putting distance between themselves and danger and the things that are messed up and evil and broken. That distance. Thankfully, we serve a God that has a very different view. In today's sermon, it's always dangerous when a preacher says this. I don't plan for it to be a long sermon. But it's a very simple point. God doesn't make junk to throw away. But God is drawing himself and us closer together. It'd be very easy for God to say, well, that was a horrible year. Let me start over. All it took was a few words to make creation, and it happened. I could start over very easy, but he doesn't do that. Instead, God brings us close. Turn to Revelation chapter 21. The last scene that we have in the Bible is unfolding in Revelation 21 and 22. I'm going to read these first few verses from 21. See, God's plan for creation is not to throw it away, it's not to cast it out and cast it aside and get rid of it, but it's to renew it and to bring healing. Verse 1, and then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eye, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more. For the former things have passed away. And he who is seated on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. The final scene that we have in the scriptures is not God coming down and taking away all the good people. The final scene that we have is heaven coming down out of the clouds to man and renewing and bringing all things new together. Romans chapter 8. Romans chapter 8 is, it starts off and it has a tension between several different pairings here. And so there's a tension between the spirit and the flesh, between slave and free, between life and death. And this tension is building, and it's not just for humans, though. It talks about creation here as well. Look at verse 19. For the creation waits with eager longing. Verse 20, for creation was subjected to futility. Verse 21, Creation itself will be set free from bondage to verse 23, and not only creation, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit grown inwardly. His climax is not God throwing away creation. His climax is God bringing renewal. Speaks of Christ. Verse 31, what shall we say to all these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, gave him up for us all. How will we not also with him graciously, how will he not all give us all things? Who shall bring charge against God's elect? It's God who justifies. Who is to condemn? Christ Jesus is the one who died, more than that, who was raised, who is at the right hand of God, who is indeed interceding for us all. Christ was raised. And we have here, we find that God has this plan not only for Jesus Christ, not only for us, but for the whole cosmos together to be renewed. For everything, for creation, for humanity, for all things to be made new, to have life. The thing that he gave to Jesus Christ, that raising him from the dead, new life for all humanity, for all creation. God doesn't make junk. So when we say, we use a lot of these big words, salvation and justification and sanctification. These aren't, say, I'm going to be saved and go somewhere else. I'm going to be justified and go somewhere else. The good things are going to be taken away and the bad things are going to go over here. We're going to run away. No, it's God is coming here together and he's making us new. And he saves us to do good works, to do good things. In Ephesians chapter 2, we're saved by grace through faith, not by works, so that no one can boast. It says we're God's workmanship, created to do good works. And so here we are in the midst of a world that's torn apart. You search any list of, the big things that happened last year, and you'll find good things and you'll find hurtful things. Obvious that there's pain and suffering. But we are here, and we're created to do good works, to love, to bring hope, to care. And somehow, God brings all of this together in this big plan of redemption that he has for this world to make all things new. What will 2017 hold? Many of the same things that happened last year. There will be sports things, teams that win championships. There will be players that are injured. Financially, there will be bankruptcies, and there will be people who win the lottery. There will be new life born into this world, and there will be those who lose their life too young. Same exact things that happened last year will happen this year. And that world needs people to shine God's light. And when we find ourselves in the midst of a storm of life, let's remember what he said, he who sits on the throne, I make all things new. I had a conversation with a young lady not too long ago. Her family's a wreck. She was dealing with consequences of making bad choices. She'd had a bad day, and she was in tears. So I'm talking with her, trying to help her kind of sort things out a little bit. And she said this. I'm just junk. A lot of people in the world feel like junk. Maybe even a lot of us sometimes. We have ups and downs and we feel like we're junk. When you find yourself in the midst of that, remember that God does not make junk. He knit you together in your mom's womb. He knew you before creation. He knew you before creation took a turn for sin and entered the world and chaos happened. But know that He who sits on the throne